What if your financial stress is not really about money? What if the panic you feel when you check your bank account, the tightness in your chest when the bills arrive, the quiet shame when everyone online seems to be winning, is not proof that you are failing? What if it is proof that the system has trained you to measure your worth by numbers you do not fully control? Because that is the game no one explains. Modern society does not just sell you products. It sells you fear. It sells you comparison. It sells you the illusion that if you are not constantly earning more, buying more, upgrading more, proving more, then you are falling behind. And once you believe that, money stops being a tool. It becomes a leash. In this video, we are not going to talk about wealth like motivational speakers do. We are not going to pretend that financial pressure is solved by repeating affirmations in the mirror while rent is due, groceries are expensive, and your future feels uncertain. We are going deeper. We are going to look at money through Stoicism, discipline, and the darker truth Machiavelli understood clearly: society rewards appearances, not inner peace. It pressures you to look successful before you are stable. It teaches you to impress people before you protect yourself. And by the end of this video, you will see the mistake most people make with money. They try to escape financial stress by chasing more income. But they never train the mind that keeps turning pressure into panic. This is not a lesson about becoming rich overnight. This is about becoming impossible to control through fear. Welcome to Silent Authority. Let us begin. 1. The river does not care about your plans. No man steps into the same river twice. Not because the river is different only, but because the man is different too. Every bill changes you. Every job loss changes you. Every financial mistake changes you. Every season where you had to choose between saving money and saving your pride changes you. And that is where the first Stoic lesson begins. Nothing stays still. Your income will change. Your expenses will change. The economy will change. The market will change. Your family responsibilities will change. The cost of living will change. Your confidence will rise and fall. The mistake most people make is that they build their peace on conditions that are always moving. They say, "I will relax when I make more money." Then they make more money, and the stress follows them. They say, "I will feel secure when I reach this number." Then they reach that number, and immediately fear invents another number. This is how the modern economic machine keeps people obedient. It never lets them arrive. There is always a better house, a better car, a better vacation, a better lifestyle, a better version of success to display. Machiavelli understood something uncomfortable about human nature: people are easily governed by appearances. If society can control what you admire, it can control what you chase. And if it can control what you chase, it can control your life. Stoicism cuts through this illusion. The Stoic does not deny financial reality. He does not pretend money is unimportant. Only a fool says money does not matter when families are struggling, debt is rising, and one emergency can destroy months of progress. But the Stoic refuses to worship money. He understands that money is unstable by nature. It flows like a river. It comes, it goes, it rises, it falls. If your identity is tied to it, then your soul will rise and fall with it. That is not freedom. That is emotional slavery with a bank account. The first step toward financial strength is not making more money. It is separating your worth from your financial condition. You may be under pressure, but you are not the pressure. You may be behind, but you are not broken. You may have made mistakes, but you are not finished. The river keeps moving. So must you. 2. Amor fati, stop fighting the season you are in. There is a kind of suffering that comes not from the problem itself, but from the belief that the problem should not be happening. You look at your bills and think, "I should be further ahead by now." You see an old friend buying a house and think, "What did I do wrong?" You scroll through people showing luxury, success, and freedom, and suddenly your ordinary life feels like evidence against you. This is where financial stress becomes psychological warfare. Not because you lack money only, but because you are comparing your private struggle to someone else's public performance. Stoicism gives us a brutal but liberating principle: amor fati. Love your fate. Not because everything that happens is good, but because everything that happens can be used. Amor fati does not mean you smile while life hits you. It does not mean you accept poverty, debt, bad habits, or poor decisions as destiny. It means you stop wasting strength hating the season you are in. You look at your financial reality without pretending. You say, "This is where I am. This is what happened. This is what I owe. This is what I earn. This is what must change." No drama. No self-pity. No fantasy. Just truth. And truth is where power begins. The fake world teaches you to hide financial weakness. Put it on a credit card. Dress it up. Finance it. Post around it. Smile through it. Pretend you are fine. But silent authority begins when you stop performing stability and start building it. If you lost money, learn from it. If you trusted the wrong person, study the pattern. If you spent to impress people who would not help you in a crisis, remember that. If you ignored your budget because facing it felt painful, face it now. Every financial wound contains information. Most people avoid that information because it bruises the ego. The Stoic studies it because it sharpens the mind. Amor fati is not passive acceptance. It is disciplined conversion. You convert regret into insight. You convert pressure into structure. You convert humiliation into restraint. You convert fear into preparation. This is how a man begins to take his power back. Not by pretending the past did not happen, but by making sure it does not own him. 3. Temperance, the discipline society tries to destroy. The modern economy hates a disciplined man. Not openly, of course. It will praise discipline in speeches. It will sell books about self-control. It will make discipline look noble from a distance. But the machine profits from your impulses. It needs you tired enough to buy comfort. Lonely enough to buy attention. Insecure enough to buy status. Bored enough to buy distraction. Angry enough to make emotional decisions. That is why temperance is not just a virtue. It is rebellion. Temperance is the ability to pause before desire becomes action. It is the space between, "I want this," and, "Do I need this?" And in that space, your freedom lives. Most financial damage does not happen in one dramatic moment. It happens quietly. One small purchase to feel better. One subscription you forgot about. One dinner you could not afford because you did not want to look cheap. One upgrade because your old things still worked, but your ego wanted proof that you were advancing. Then months later, you wonder why your money disappears. But money did not disappear. It obeyed your untrained desires. The Stoic does not hate comfort. He does not glorify struggle for attention. He does not act superior because he spends less. He simply refuses to be ruled by appetite. He understands the difference between enjoying life and being manipulated by it. Temperance asks hard questions. Do you want this because it serves your life? Or because you feel empty? Do you need this? Or are you trying to repair your self-image? Are you buying peace? Or avoiding discomfort? Are you spending from strength? Or from emotional weakness? These questions are not meant to shame you. They are meant to wake you up. Because the world has become very skilled at turning emotional pain into financial behavior. You feel behind, so you buy symbols of progress. You feel unseen, so you buy things that make you visible. You feel powerless, so you spend to feel in control for 10 minutes. But the bill always arrives. And when it does, the illusion collapses. Temperance rebuilds you from the inside. It teaches you that not every desire deserves obedience. Not every sale is an opportunity. Not every lifestyle deserves imitation. Not every person you want to impress is worth the cost. A disciplined man may own less, but he is owned by less. And that is where quiet power begins. 4. Wisdom. Money must serve a life, not replace one. Many people have financial goals. Few have financial wisdom. A goal says, I want more. Wisdom asks, more for what? That question exposes everything. Because some people do not want wealth. They want revenge. They want to prove old critics wrong. They want to look untouchable to people who once dismissed them. They want money to heal wounds that money did not create. And this is dangerous. Because if your financial ambition is powered by insecurity, no amount will ever satisfy it. You will not build freedom. You will build a golden prison. Stoic wisdom forces you to examine the motive beneath the goal. Why do you want more income? Why do you want that house? Why do you want that car? Why do you feel ashamed of where you are? Who taught you that your current life is not enough? Who benefits when you believe you must constantly prove your value? These are not soft questions. They are strategic questions. Machiavelli would tell you to study power as it is, not as people pretend it is. And in modern society, financial power is often disguised as virtue. People call it success, ambition, lifestyle, freedom. But underneath, much of it is theater. People are drowning in debt to look secure. Exhausted from work they hate to maintain an image they cannot afford. Smiling in public while privately terrified of one missed payment. Wisdom does not reject ambition. It purifies it. It turns money back into a tool. A tool for stability. A tool for options. A tool for protecting your family. A tool for buying time. A tool for reducing dependence on people and systems that do not care about your soul. That is the difference. The unwise man uses money to decorate his insecurity. The wise man uses money to strengthen his freedom. Financial planning, then, is not just numbers. It is philosophy made practical. It is deciding what kind of life your money is supposed to protect. Before you budget, know your values. Before you invest, know your risk. Before you chase opportunity, know your weakness. Before you say yes to more, understand what it will cost you internally. Because the wrong financial path can make you richer and emptier at the same time. Wisdom means refusing that trade. 5. Premeditatio malorum, prepare before life forces you to. Most people do not prepare for financial pain. They react to it. They wait until the layoff comes. Until the medical bill arrives. Until the market drops. Until the car breaks. Until the relationship ends. Until the debt becomes too loud to ignore. Then they panic. Stoicism teaches a different practice, premeditatio malorum. The premeditation of misfortune. This does not mean living in fear. It means refusing to be surprised by reality. A Stoic quietly asks, what if my income drops? What if this investment fails? What if prices rise again? What if someone I support needs help? What if my plan takes longer than expected? What if the economy does not care about my timeline? This is not pessimism. This is training. Because panic thrives in the unprepared mind. When you have never imagined hardship, hardship feels like betrayal. But when you have prepared for it, hardship becomes a scenario. Still painful. Still difficult. But no longer paralyzing. This is where financial resilience is built. Emergency funds are not just money. They are emotional armor. Low debt is not just math. It is strategic mobility. A simple lifestyle is not failure. It is protection. Skills are not just career tools. They are survival assets. Multiple options are not paranoia. They are wisdom. Modern society encourages fragility while calling it success. It tells people to stretch every dollar of income into lifestyle. A bigger apartment. A bigger payment. A bigger image. A bigger dependency. Then when life changes, they collapse. Not because they are weak people, but because they were trained to build for applause, not endurance. The Stoic builds differently. He does not ask, "How impressive does my life look?" He asks, "How much pressure can my life survive?" That one question separates appearance from power. And if you want real financial freedom, you must stop building a life that only works when everything goes well. Anyone can look strong in calm weather. Discipline is revealed when the storm arrives. 6. Courage. Face the number you keep avoiding. There is a moment every financially stressed person knows. You need to check the account, but you delay it. You need to open the bill, but you leave it on the table. You need to calculate the debt, but you tell yourself you will do it later. You need to admit that your spending is not matching your income, but the truth feels too heavy. So you avoid it. And every day you avoid it, the fear grows. Not always because the problem grows, but because the unknown grows. Stoic courage begins with looking directly at what scares you. Not dramatically. Not emotionally. Just directly. Open the account. Write the number. List the debt. Calculate the expenses. See the truth. Because you cannot defeat an enemy you refuse to name. Financial fear becomes powerful when it remains vague. I am in trouble feels unbearable. But, I owe this amount, I earn this amount, I spend this amount, and I need this plan, becomes something you can work with. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to let fear control the next action. And in money, courage is often quiet. It looks like canceling something you cannot afford. It looks like telling someone, "I cannot do that right now." It looks like taking an extra shift without turning it into a personal tragedy. It looks like asking for advice. It looks like admitting you do not understand investing instead of pretending you do. It looks like choosing stability over ego. The fake world teaches you to fear looking poor more than being unstable. That is why people stay trapped. They would rather keep the appearance of control than do the uncomfortable work of gaining it. But silent authority is not appearance. It is internal command. A courageous man is not the one who never struggles financially. It is the one who stops lying to himself about the struggle. He does not need the world to think he is fine. He needs his foundation to become real. And that begins with one brutal act. Face the number. 7. Self-reflection. Your money pattern is telling a story. Your spending has a memory. Your financial habits are not random. They come from somewhere. Maybe you grew up in scarcity, so now every purchase feels like proof that you escaped. Maybe you watched your parents fight about money, so now money feels like danger. Maybe you were ignored unless you achieved, so now income feels like identity. Maybe you learned that saying no makes people leave, so you spend money to maintain relationships. Maybe you confuse generosity with self-erasure. Maybe you confuse comfort with healing. This is why financial advice often fails. It speaks to the budget. But the wound is deeper. Stoic self-reflection asks you to examine not only what you do with money, but why you do it. Why do you overspend when stressed? Why do you avoid planning? Why do you feel guilty saving money? Why do you feel ashamed needing help? Why do you chase financial goals that do not even match the life you actually want? This is not therapy language for softness. This is self-command. A man who does not understand his patterns will keep obeying them. He will call it choice. But it is programming. The world knows this. Advertisers know your insecurity. Platforms know when you are lonely. Brands know when you want status. The economy studies your impulses better than you study your own mind. That is the Machiavellian truth of modern life. You are not only making financial decisions. You are being influenced, triggered, pressured, and seduced into them. Self-reflection is how you break the spell. Once a week, sit with your financial life without excuses. Ask, what did I spend money on this week? What emotion was behind it? What purchase actually improved my life? What purchase only protected my ego? Where did I act with discipline? Where did I act from fear? What must change next week? This practice is simple. But it is not easy. Because it removes the stories you tell yourself. And when the stories fall away, responsibility appears. But responsibility is not punishment. It is power returning to its rightful owner. 8. Financial stress. The world presses the button, but you supply the reaction. Financial stress feels external. Bills. Rent. Inflation. Debt. Job pressure. Family expectations. Unexpected expenses. And yes, these are real. Stoicism is not blind to reality. But it teaches that the event and the reaction are not the same thing. The bill arrives. That is the event. Your mind says, I am ruined. I am stupid. I will never recover. That is the reaction. And the reaction is where suffering multiplies. Most people do not suffer once from financial pressure. They suffer again and again in imagination. They replay worst-case scenarios. They compare themselves to others. They attach shame to numbers. They turn temporary difficulty into permanent identity. This is how stress becomes a prison. Not because the problem is small, but because the mind has not been trained to hold pressure without collapsing. The Stoic does not say, do not feel stress. That would be dishonest. He says, do not let stress become your commander. When financial anxiety rises, slow down. Separate what is happening from what your mind is adding. What is the actual problem? What can be done today? What is outside your control? What conversation needs to happen? What expense must be cut? What plan must be created? What skill must be improved? The mind under stress wants total answers immediately. But life rarely gives total answers. So the disciplined man looks for the next controlled action. One call. One calculation. One adjustment. One honest conversation. One decision. This is how panic loses authority. Not all at once. But step by step. Financial peace is not built by eliminating every uncertainty. That is impossible. It is built by becoming the kind of person who can act clearly inside uncertainty. That is real strength. 9. Acceptance is not surrender. Many people misunderstand acceptance. They think acceptance means giving up. But Stoic acceptance is not weakness. It is accuracy. It is the ability to stop arguing with reality long enough to respond effectively. If you are in debt, accept it. Not as your identity. As your starting point. If your income is not enough, accept it. Not as destiny. As a signal. If you made mistakes, accept them. Not to punish yourself. To stop repeating them. The person who cannot accept reality wastes energy defending fantasy. He says, it should not be this way. Maybe not. But it is. Now what? That question is where leadership begins. Modern society keeps people emotionally immature by encouraging constant blame. Blame the economy. Blame the rich. Blame the job. Blame the past. Blame your parents. Blame the system. Some of those forces may be real. But if blame becomes your permanent home, you lose your agency. Machiavelli would warn you, power does not go to those who are most wounded. It goes to those who understand reality and move with precision. Acceptance gives you precision. It clears the fog. You stop wasting strength on denial. You stop performing outrage. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You begin from where you stand. This does not mean you approve of everything. It means you are no longer emotionally blackmailed by what happened. You accept the terrain. Then you move. That is the difference between surrender and command. 10. Financial education. Ignorance is expensive. There is a quiet tax most people pay their whole lives. It is not listed on a bill. It is called ignorance. Not stupidity. Ignorance. Not knowing how interest works. Not understanding debt. Not understanding taxes. Not understanding investing. Not understanding contracts. Not understanding negotiation. Not understanding how quickly lifestyle inflation consumes income. Not understanding that money without discipline becomes a temporary visitor. The modern world is full of financial traps dressed as convenience. Buy now, pay later. Minimum payments. Easy approvals. Luxury subscriptions. Status spending. High-interest debt. Investment hype. Fake gurus selling certainty to desperate people. If you do not educate yourself, someone else will profit from your confusion. That is not a conspiracy. That is business. Stoic discipline demands continuous learning. Not because knowledge makes you superior, but because ignorance makes you vulnerable. You do not need to become obsessed with money. But you must understand the rules of the game you are already playing. Learn budgeting. Learn saving. Learn debt repayment. Learn risk. Learn basic investing. Learn how to read your own behavior. Learn how the economy affects your life. Learn how to ask better questions before signing anything. Financial education is not glamorous. But neither is being controlled by things you never took time to understand. The disciplined man studies quietly. While others chase shortcuts, he builds foundations. While others gamble on hype, he learns principles. While others panic during downturns, he understands cycles. This is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming harder to deceive. And in a society built on illusion, clarity is power. 11. Moderation. Do not let wealth become another master. Here is the final trap. A man escapes financial stress. He becomes disciplined. He earns more. He saves more. He gains stability. Then slowly, without noticing, he becomes enslaved again. Not by poverty this time. By accumulation. He begins to fear losing what he has. He begins to judge himself by growth alone. He begins to see rest as weakness. He begins to treat people as obstacles or assets. He begins to confuse net worth with human worth. This is why Stoicism must remain present even after success. Because money can corrupt the poor through desperation. And it can corrupt the successful through attachment. Moderation protects both. The Stoic does not reject wealth. He rejects worship. He can build wealth, use wealth, protect wealth, and still remember that wealth is not the soul. Money can buy comfort. It cannot buy character. Money can buy status. It cannot buy self-respect. Money can buy attention. It cannot buy trust. Money can buy options. It cannot tell you which option is wise. This is why the final measure of financial freedom is not how much you possess. It is how little possession possesses you. Can you earn without becoming arrogant? Can you lose without becoming destroyed? Can you save without becoming fearful? Can you spend without becoming reckless? Can you succeed without needing to humiliate those who doubted you? Can you live well without turning your life into a performance? That is the test. Because the goal is not to become rich and restless. The goal is to become stable, clear, and internally free. The real financial battle. Let us bring this together. Financial stress is not only about money. It is about control. It is about whether your mind collapses when numbers move. It is about whether society can manipulate you through comparison. It is about whether fear can make decisions for you. It is about whether your ego spends faster than your wisdom can speak. Today, we walk through the Stoic path to financial strength. First, you learn that life is a river. Everything changes, and your peace cannot depend on things that never stay still. Second, you learn to more fatty. Stop hating the season you are in. Use it. Third, you learn temperance. The economy profits from your impulses, but discipline breaks the leash. Fourth, you learn wisdom. Money must serve a life, not replace one. Fifth, you learn preparation. Imagine hardship before it arrives, so it does not own you when it comes. Sixth, you learn courage. Face the number you keep avoiding. Seventh, you learn self-reflection. Your money patterns are telling a story. Study it. Eighth, you learned how to handle financial stress. The world may press the button, but you do not have to surrender the reaction. Ninth, you learned acceptance. Reality is not your enemy. Denial is. 10th, you learned financial education. Ignorance is expensive, and clarity protects you. And finally, you learn moderation. Do not escape poverty only to become enslaved by wealth. This is the deeper lesson. You do not become financially free only by having more. You become financially free when money can no longer command your emotions, your identity, your dignity, or your choices. The world will keep selling fear. It will tell you that you are behind. It will show you people who seem richer, freer, happier, and more successful. It will pressure you to prove that you matter. But you do not need to obey every signal. You do not need to turn your life into a performance. You do not need to spend money to convince strangers you are worthy. You need discipline. You need clarity. You need courage. You need the quiet strength to look at your financial life without shame and say, "This is where I stand. This is what I control. This is what I will change." That is how control returns. Not loudly. Not instantly. But permanently. If this video gave you clarity, press like so it reaches another person carrying financial pressure in silence. Subscribe to Silent Authority if you want more lessons on discipline, emotional control, and quiet power in a society built to weaken your mind. And before you leave, answer this in the comments. What is one financial fear you are ready to stop running from? Write it down. Because the moment you name the fear, it begins to lose power.